Hello, and welcome to another Crypto Club and Digital Assets weekly catch up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 15th of December 2024, and as those who've watched some of these before will know, we never know quite what we're going to be discussing. It really depends upon the audience and what conversations we have. Typically, we'll talk about blockchain, crypto, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, STOs, lots of three-letter acronyms, really, all kind of buzzwords, talk about industry news, crypto regulation, and general market information as well. We hold the sessions every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time. You'll find details of how to join a future session in the link below. Hope you find something of interest in this session. If you do, remember to click on the like, or even more importantly, subscribe, because that gets the numbers up. But even better, come along to a future session. So with that, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Hey, Gabriella. Welcome back. And Dom, hello. Are you in an airport waiting lounge?
No, I'm not. I'm in my flat in Abu Dhabi at the moment.
My word, this makes a change. Normally you're hopping on an aeroplane, I think, all the time.
I know.
Yeah, oh, it's good. Good seeing. Quite lively in Abu Dhabi at the moment.
Yeah, we just had Abu Dhabi Finance Week. We've had Mina Bitcoin. We've had like everyone here still on a break point further. Obviously, Richard doing his thing. Nobo's been around. QCP boys and girls. Every bugger's been here, right? Can't keep up.
I
Don't think
think.
I've slept the past week.
Wow, I think looking at all the events that are going on in Abu Dhabi and Dubai at the moment, there's just so much happening. It's difficult to keep up.
When you've got a government backing you to make it the center of crypto, obviously the US has got a change in administration, which is going to try and push there. But yeah, there's a few things going on.
Excellent. Well, good to see you're at the heart of the action anyway. Yeah. But maybe a little bit later you can share some insight of what's going on, because it's certainly interesting with Abu Dhabi, not only the government support, but the regulatory support as well. They seem to be paving a way forwards, which is fantastic.
Well, they've been doing it since 2017, and the only reason they're doing it is because the government backed them since about 2015.
I guess they realise that it's a great opportunity to expand into an emerging market and be at the forefront of
Totally.
it.
But they're doing that across all markets here. Biotech, obviously AI with J42, medtech, agriculture, everything.
So just checking, Gabriella, can you hear us okay now?
Yes, hello everyone.
Hey, good evening to you. Welcome back. So Dom, with all the events that are going on at the moment, which are the ones that you've found of most interest or
I don't think that's really, in a way fair. There's so many different types and things going on. In a way, Mina Bitcoin, the first time that's been held over here, that was quite refreshing in a way. It was a bit more like, I don't know, consensus sort of 2018 before they moved it to Texas and it became all too Accenture and IBM focused. So that was good to have some sort of good school vibes back. Haven't been to a conference in ages where you could go and buy a mining rig. But at the same time, there were super yachts parked there, which didn't happen at Consensus. It was all rented Lambos, if you remember. With ADFW, I mean, every single large bank's CEO now turning up in Abu Dhabi. So all the CEOs of Citi, JPM, at the same time rubbing shoulders with all of us from the crypto side, from the further ventures. There's just such a convergence here now. It's, yes, of course, the US administration is being helpful. Even Trump's son, one of Trump's sons was here. But it's, I wouldn't say that's irrelevant. I would say they're a significant powerhouse. I think what's different here is the fact that every nationality, every country jurisdiction was here rather than the US just being US focused.
Right.
And that's what excites me the most, because that makes it really the truly hub of I say not just crypto, it's every industry. Which is cool. It makes it a very exciting and an interesting place to be.
But I guess your days are long.
Yeah, I think I did 18 hours in Zuma on Tuesday, which is a very nice Japanese restaurant. Started at midday with Falcon X. Those were doing an event all the way through. So it's like one of those ones where you don't actually really attend the conference. You're sort of just at all the other stuff around it.
I saw that. That kind of happened for a while in the UK as well. I remember that a few years ago, where there'd be a conference on, but you wouldn't actually end up at any of the conference
Yeah,
things. It's all the side events that you was where the real stuff was happening. I mean,
totally.
I guess it's a reflection of that. So it's only interesting. But I know as well, looking at the recent regulatory stuff with um, Abu Dhabi's things around, is it VASPs,
Asps.
the virtual type things. Again, they've been really pushing ahead on that kind of capability of having like legislative clarity on those things,
Yep.
which is fantastic. So, hey, and it must be Middle East night. We've got Dickie's joined us. Dickie, long time no speak.
How are you, Gary?
We are good. Are you still in Dubai then?
I am indeed. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
Yeah, you're resident there these days, aren't you?
I
You're
am
living the dream.
living the dream. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know, Dickie. Do you know Dom, who's also on the call? No.
Don't think so. No, hi, Tom.
I'm just looking you up, mate. We must have a ton of connections, and we
You,
do
you,
indeed. You know,
you,
my mate Saeed, by the looks of it, and Mina.
yeah,
Yes.
you two
So
should definitely connect separately.
have we not crossed paths? I'm just looking at all the connections. Jesus. Even Nigel Pringle from bloody Adia.
Well, there you go. So Nigel. So I was a stockbroker back in the day. Nigel was a client of mine when he worked at Kleinwort Benson.
Ah.
Way back, many centuries ago.
I know that different world we all used to inhabit.
So Dickie used to run his own kind of like it's kind of like a crypto daily newscast, wasn't it? Dickie with you were looking like a CNN anchorman, but actually using an ironing board, I think, for your board, if I remember correctly. I scared him off. Dickie, Dickie, come back. Never mind. I'll say hello to Ken instead. Ken's in the UK, I believe. Ken, all right. Hello, Ken.
Yeah, hi, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So we're just chatting about all the events that are going on at the moment, particularly in the Middle East. Dom's based out in Abu Dhabi. Dickie's based out in Dubai these days, and so we've got me and Ken in the UK, Gabriella in Spain. So a real mixture of type things. I was just curious to find out any insights at any of the conferences, really. So I'll be curious as well because Dickie, I'm sure, will have been at the various events that have been on in Dubai last week. So I'm just curious as to his thinking and Dom's thinking about what's happening in the blockchain and crypto landscape of interest.
Well, crikey, where do you start? I mean, everyone's doing partnerships with the banks here.
Mhm.
Zodia Boys, Zodia Cust obviously announced Emirates MBD coming on their investment table. Stanchart doing their bigger play using their tech, but looking at obviously the bigger deals with OKX to secure their banking rails as well as providing some level of custody. To be honest, I think the biggest really one is the foundations. So Dimitri, who was Vara, now at ADGM for the past period, I think public knowledge, he's landed $1.8 billion of foundation money in Abu Dhabi under the FSRA regs they've got there. But it's mainly, I suppose, they've got clear regs, but it's also helped obviously by Switzerland implying some of the tax concerns now onto the foundations that were set up some time ago, back in the good old days of sort of 2016, 2017, right? So, a lot of the foundations looking over here, talk is in 2026, consensus, the event will be here. What else? What else was discussed? Not just we're still on a breakpoint. Token will be in Abu Dhabi 2026. We obviously had it in Dubai this year and next year. So there's a lot of stuff. But yeah, so it's getting the foundations in. Novo was doing usual Novo stuff. He thinks, we're going to go up for the next week or so. I'm just sort of paraphrasing him. And then it will crash back to 75, sorry, price correction, correct PC terms, and then be bouncing back up again post then. So there's a lot of talk, and Mike's had Jason pricing all that into their trading strategy, and he's just manipulating the market, or he knows his stuff. But no, yeah, that was cool. It was a really good combination of what's going on. Even Russell came a DAO. Been up to a couple of their events. They've come out with their DAO regulation about a month or so ago now. Really try and help decentralized organizations actually have a legal framework to work with, so you can actually face off to them, which is important, I think, for their growth. They're really targeting the gaming market, particularly as well, because there's now casino being built by Wynn, and they have gaming licenses. Abu Dhabi and Dubai, I don't know if Dubai does yet. Abu Dhabi also has allowed gaming licenses, but they're not quite as far ahead. So it'd be interesting to see where Russell Kane will go with that as well, because obviously they see it as a play to add to their industry as well. Dubai booming. I mean, Dick, you'll know. So we must have about a bazillion connections through like the Sackers of this world. Well, he's not a crypto oasis anymore, but Trade Dog guys. They're all very positive. I think the one outlier at the moment is Vara. They haven't actually licensed a VASP, under the VARA jurisdiction regulation for 6 months now. So people are starting to ask a couple of questions on that, but I think they've just really had a manpower issue. And mind you, I mean, it's still taking far longer than that for people to do that under FCA. And what have you got? Q2 2026 before you get any real regulation, right? So, there's still some way to go. But I think from all the events, the Solana one was great. M2, they're going through some change, which is good. I think they probably got their positioning a bit wrong initially. Me as Binance, I shouldn't really comment on that, but that's a personal more of opinion. But I think, Bijan and Munaf from there are making some great inroads there. M2's having to move to Abu Dhabi because of, it's investment base. Lots of very cool from the exchange stuff through to, the smaller players. But so the foundation focus is critical. I think with more foundations moving here, not leaving their funds in another jurisdiction for operation, actually moving the funds here too. That's a big play.
What are you finding in terms of custody? Because it's interesting. You mentioned Zodia, and Zodia I've always considered as one of the leaders in the custody, and they've got the backing, if I remember correctly, from Standard Chartered originally.
They're doing a 50 mil raise now. They've just announced a tickler, I guess, with Emirates MBD. Zain Suren, who's their current senior head of sales. My throat's gone from many whiskies and butchers and stills on Friday night. There's many other custodians. You've got Tungsten under Further Ventures. Some of the other exchanges like Matrix, obviously. Binance's sort of sister company Cefu, they're getting their license under Vara. There's a lot of custody capability about. I think it's also looking at MPC and distribution. What's the French firm? DFDS.
I thought that was a ship. That's a shipping firm, isn't it?
DFNS. Well, the API one that's really cool. Really good team. They're here. They were here a lot. That was noticeable. I don't know if they're looking at further funding here, but I think for the region, it's very much about two angles. One, having some level of the key shards or keys of its HSMs being in the region. Obviously, you've got to have regulatory control, so your people have got to have some level of position. And VARA and FSRA have slightly different sort of options there. There's about 3 different types of how you can operate with either a sub provider like a Fireblocks, or have a local custodian do it for you, a bit like a sub custodial arrangement, or you are actually managing the keys yourselves. With Vara, there's a slightly different premise, but it's more what's interesting. We look at this sort of Tungsten model. They're actually developing their own hardware alongside a lot of the people developing multi-cloud, and actually clouds that are not under US direct control. And they want to be able to load some of their own cryptographic libraries, which are not necessarily NIST-based ones.
Okay. That's kind of interesting, because NIST, for those who don't know, is like the standard, really. What is it, National Institute of
Science and Technology, isn't it?
Yeah. But it tends to be the standard. But I've seen a lot of stuff lately as well. I guess people are beginning to get worried about the concept of quantum still. Which there's still conversation about, is that hyper-reality? But I'm seeing some of the standards about SHA-256 and ECDSA and all the kind of like protocols kind of like being sunsetted and being replaced by more quantum resistant type solutions. So it's a fascinating area there.
And not just quantum resistant, it's geopolitical, right? So it's about, they want a US entity. Look at the fun that Trump's playing with his threat of export import controls, right? Around other alternative payments rails. It's about having country level or regional level standards and controls they want. Yeah, I mean, quantum came up. Look, quantum, if they really do have it, crypto is bloody irrelevant. The total financial markets infrastructure, every bugger's OnlyFans account's broken, right? So, it's that far bigger than that. Every military communication system is going to be broken by quantum. So that is, it's important to us, but we're small fry still compared to the impact elsewhere.
I share exactly the same sentiment that I get on calls with people who say, oh, well, if quantum comes through and it solves all these cryptography things, that's crypto done for. And like, crypto is a $4 trillion market, which when you say it sounds big, but actually compared to traditional financial services, compared to mobile phone technology, satellite communications, military, exactly as you say, it's pretty tiny. And there will be far bigger targets to go for than a few Bitcoins sitting on someone's wallet or something. It really is small fry.
But I mean, I think the most important thing, and I was sort of hogging on this topic, but it just reinforces kind of in a way why I got in this industry a long time ago. Lots of brilliant people about actually talking and doing stuff. It was really refreshing. About the sort of energy levels again. And I see that across, obviously Dubai. I know Dick, you're obviously up there as well. I've got offices up there. I'm up there twice a week now. So
Dickie fell off the call for some reason. I'm hoping he might rejoin again. But
it's probably his VPN usage. It's actually Slack for him.
but we were joined by
it really is across the board. Yeah, I mean Zodio, possibly coming here. That's great. Hidden Road. I think they were making some announcements from a prime side, maybe some large institutional players like the sovereign wealth, so you could be lending in to provide collateral. We're not going to see them. You mentioned the market cap there, brilliant. It's at 4 trillion or whatever it is today. It's not going to get to 10 trillion by just people converting into Tether, right? Or converting into USDC. It's about how do we start getting lending, right, and credit creation into the market. And so obviously we're very lucky. We've got the sovereign wealth's very, very large funds. I mean, yeah, exactly. You talk about total market of crypto. You add up the total market of just within Abu Dhabi, ADQ, Mubadala, G42, ADIA, and the pension funds. You're over 4 trillion. It's that size. And so if they put in even say $1 billion each to provide collateral to the market, that'd be a huge play, let alone any more. So there's lots of exciting stuff going on.
It's certainly fascinating.
We need more coders, though. Do you know what? Having done DevCon as well, which was cool. The balance of business people against devs, that's my worry. We need more young devs coming out, says the old man with the husky voice. But I'd love to see more, the old school, like it used to be with devs with stickers on, just meeting up and coming up with some cool ideas. Yeah, I hope that is still happening. I'm just not seeing it enough. I see too many of us people trying to wear suits with trainers and pretending we're cool.
I'm seeing less and less of hackathons where you just go and sit in a WeWork or wherever for a weekend and drink a few beers and have some pizzas and come up with some interesting stuff. But we've been joined by JT, who I'm assuming is still in Dubai. JT, where are you in the world at the moment?
Oh God, he's not on this call. I was avoiding him all last week. I couldn't get away from the bloke. He's just hassling me. He kept wanting to meet up. Mate, I owe you an apology. I really was bloody slammed last week and we never got to actually talk.
Hey, guys. You're funny,
so I owe you an apology, mate. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Busy week. And I move on to the next one, I wanted to ask you a few questions because you're an Abu Dhabi guy, yeah. So I was there in Abu Dhabi, so I found the answers anyway. So all good, man.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, still in Dubai.
We're joined before by Dickie, who's on the call, and he dropped off, unfortunately. So it was becoming like a bit of a Middle East evening. The Gulf States Zoom weekly call. We'll have to rename this.
Well, that's it. I wanted to check it the other way. How's the UK feeling? Is it as dire as everyone sort of? Because everyone sort of last week who was over from UK or even the US were like, God, it's awful there. We want to move here. It's brilliant. So I just want to hear if that's really true, because I'm going to buy a load more apartments here so that I can rent them all to you lot coming over. But it would be great to hear how the sort of the old land is.
Weather is great, you know. That's
Well,
why.
here.
Well, no, in UK, that's why everybody wants to stay there.
It was actually about 12 or 13 degrees today, so that's pretty nice for December. But it'll go. It's why I find it funny if you work with people who are from South Africa or New Zealand or Australia. This is the entertainment time of the year because they get so completely depressed by the weather, which is another great reason for going to the Middle East. But we've been joined by Annie as well. Hey, Annie, you're in the UK, aren't you, Annie?
I am Cambridge.
Yeah, that's what I remember now.
I think what happened here is I was struggling trying to find the link. That was why it's so late. I was like, where's the link again?
No problem. You timed it quite nicely. We're just chatting. We've got quite an international flavour today. So Dom's with Binance out in Abu Dhabi. JT's doing the circuit over in Dubai at the moment. Ken's in the UK. Gabrielle's in Spain. And we're just talking about all the things that are happening in the crypto and blockchain type world at the moment. I was interesting. Dom made the interesting observation about a shortage of developers in the crypto space. I don't know. Cambridge is usually pretty good for churning out coders and that kind of thing, isn't it?
I'm about to change the topic a little bit for tonight. I was thinking, maybe I want to explore more on why is it a different kind of developers for crypto compared to any other software that is already existed? Mm-hmm. Is it because it's using a software language called Rust? And that is very different from C language, maybe? Is that why?
I think that's part. I'm going to quickly offer before JT goes in, because he's more technical than me on this anyway. And Ken as well should be really good because he does the dev stuff. But my thinking is partly it's because of the likes of using Rust, but it's also because it's a younger generation who think this has never happened before. Whereas I've seen so many evolutions through so many programming languages, and everyone always thinks that they're the first to have ever discovered stuff. But JT, go on. You'll have some thoughts on that.
Yeah. So Rust is not the only language. Yeah. It started pretty much. The coding part started pretty much. With smart contracts on Ethereum. That's when we start to see a lot of adoption, and that's really Solidity, yeah, which is quite a simple language. So it is not really because of Rust. It is some of the problems that exist in blockchain still today, and they will continue to exist because it's trying to find a balance from the three laws, yeah, and the distributed computations are quite hard, yeah, and it's not that there aren't solutions. There are solutions, but then a lot of blockchains are trying to evolve at a faster pace and trying to achieve too many things, yeah, instead of solving one problem at a time. Because the big competition, there's lots and lots of layer 1 blockchains, layer 2 blockchains, and it's not going to stop. And in my opinion, none of them have solved the problem yet. Yeah, if you throw, I don't know, let's say if we're going to use blockchain at the edge, think how many millions of cars there are out there. Yeah, which blockchain can actually do 1 million transactions per second? There is none. Yeah, so there is some problems that are still there, and they're going to continue. People trying to find ways to speed up that, which is great. So the skills needed, yeah, to be able to understand the decentralization and distributed computation are are quite hard. There aren't many people that can achieve that level of knowledge, and nowadays people focus more on the money side. When you see young programmers, they just want to make quick money. They see everybody driving Lambos. So they'll go for the meme coins. They'll go for quick DeFi projects, stuff that brings them money quickly. So it kind of a stuck. I understand what Domar is saying, and it is actually true, people say, no, there's a lot of devs, but there aren't. The devs that really matter, that can solve the problems, there aren't. There are many superficial guys that can code a smart contract in Solidity. Lots of them, But even those are disappearing fast because then they start their own projects, Oh, launch a meme coin. Okay, made $1 million. Okay, great. I'm going to Bali and live there for 1 or 2 years, They live on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and it's a hard problem to solve, to be truly honest,
I know that I'll bring Ken in a moment, but my personal experience as well, even several years ago, was that it was very difficult to retain good quality coders, simply because they did things like they'd launch an NFT, hold out their Bitcoin or whatever, and we had one guy who was really good, and Ethereum just shot up at some point. And he said, "Oh well, I've made £1 million or whatever. I'm retiring." And he was literally just going to go on a world tour type thing. So from what I've seen, the coding isn't that different. The architecture is what does make it different, though, and it's the fact that, as Jay-Z says, distributed and decentralized architectures require a different mindset from a straightforward, whether it's client server or mainframe or whatever. But Ken, you're probably more closely aligned with this. So what's your thinking?
Well, I mean, I reckon there's two types of coders out there. So you've got the one that everyone talks about, which are effectively the front-end coders. The people who code in Solidity, might do a bit of Rust on Solana or whatever. And they're the ones who are really looking to make it big and make it quick. And, when they hit the jackpot, like you say, they disappear. Or they might be in a project and then they're earning, some good money, maybe 100, 200, 300,000 a year. Maybe he's 22, he's earned 200,000 a year for 3 years. He's like, well, I've saved enough. I'm going to make my own project, because I can hit the moon with my own project. So you get a lot of people just moving away from it. It's really hard for those dApps to actually keep a team together over extremely, a long time. And that's what it takes to build a great product, is teams need to be together over a prolonged period of time. And because everybody wants to make the money quickly, it means that if you're a developer, all you have to do is go to any meetup, anywhere you bump into somebody building something. If they've got funding, they'll be throwing money at developers, because what happens, the majority of the dApps basically being created, they will be, I think, top heavy on non-developers. So they're willing to actually throw a lot more money into developers because they've got a vision. They might have one person who's kind of like giving them their MVP, and they need to build up the development team. But because they've got the other co-founders or marketing people or business people, or something like that, so they have no option but to throw a lot of money towards developers to come in. And so it's a fight for those developers with those skills. And the other thing, it's not too hard to learn Solidity, which is not the number one smart contract programming language out there. Nothing else touches Solidity. There's more Solidity programmers than anything else in terms of decentralized applications. The only thing is, it's crypto has kind of like a bad reputation. So if you're an excellent developer, you're sitting in a nice company, I don't know, you might be working for Google, you might be working for Apple, you might be working in a bank, you might be working for BlackRock, you name it. You've got a great salary, a great way where you can look at your career progression and think, well, I'm doing something that I love. Why should I change and go to a dApp? Though they've raised a lot of money today, but they could have disappeared. They could disappear tomorrow. And they have basically, they could just look back and look at, I don't know, FTX, though it wasn't a dApp. It did employ quite a few developers, and then it just disappeared off the earth. So they can also look at their career and then they have to judge, shall I leave this solid career path and take a risk? Because when you move into crypto, you're typically taking a risk. And so that's why on the DApp, on the decentralized applications, it's hard to see teams lasting over a long time. Then you've got the other end, which is the one that I think JT is talking about, which is the back end, building the actual blockchains. And JT is right. It's a very specific skill that's needed for it. And the people who build the best blockchains tend to pretty much be PhDs, either people who started PhDs and left or completed their PhDs. You just have to look at the best blockchains and just take a look at the CVs of the founders. So the technical ability that's needed for those are extremely deep. And it just comes to the thing, it's if you want to go and commit your future, there's a lot of other things. You could commit your future and go and be a PhD and go and work with AI, OpenAI. Or you could commit so I think they've probably got the same problems that we have in this community, in that getting the actual best is extremely hard. And that's why what you will have is mediocre. I don't really want to say this, but you will have mediocre people. What they will do is they'll, rather than try and bring whatever technology forward, because we're an open source environment, you can just go fork whatever code you want, rename it, and there you go, and say, look, this is the new DApp, and just say I'm going to focus on XYZ, and you haven't actually done anything to make it anything better, and you can make a lot of money out of it. I mean, good example is Justin Sun. I mean, he bought that banana, but if you look at what he did, he took Ethereum, just forked it, didn't make any changes to it, and it just runs as pretty much a closed source Ethereum project. And a lot of people like it because a lot of people want to send stable coins really quick between themselves and Asia. And so he's able to actually make a lot of money, and he's pretty happy. And so you've got you could go across the industry and you could pick a lot of that. So there's only a handful, I'd say maybe 10 projects out there, or maybe 15 at the most, that are actually doing anything to bring it forward. So those are the stresses. But I think I personally think over time, you will get maybe 4 or 5 blockchains each that absolutely concentrate on a specific area and absolutely smash it. I mean, Peak, for example, doing it. I mean, they're just focusing on they're focusing on being decentralized, but at the same time are focusing on so you could build your own dApps, but I mean, their infrastructure is a bit different from everybody else's. Everybody loves Solana. I'm not a fan of Solana. I just think Solana is just a centralized blockchain. I mean,
very bad tech. Very bad tech.
R3 and Solana, and I just don't see the difference. But Sui, I quite like Sui. I think they're doing, that's quite, what they're doing there is really good, and the Move programming language is quite good. So I think we're pretty much really early on the back end. It's more like physics projects we do, kind of.
I was going to throw in a couple more thoughts on that, actually. The first is working backwards. Coders like to work on leading edge, interesting stuff. And right now, the new buzzword, even though it's been around for 40, 50 years, is AI. So I think there's a move that some people are getting more into artificial intelligence, machine learning, large language models, because from a technical basis, that's quite an interesting area. Whereas the ones who are into the crypto blockchain type stuff, I think there's kind of 2 problems. One is, as Ken mentioned there, he mentioned several blockchains there, each of which may use their different language, their different architectures or whatever. So you've got this kind of balkanization, as you might call it, so splitting up of capabilities. Some people are into Solidity, some people are into Rust, blah, blah, blah type thing. So you've got that splitting up, that fragmentation. But also the interesting thing, which I think does make blockchain type developments a little bit unique, is the fact that you'll hear people sometimes use the term that they're a full stack developer. And full stack developers concern me because it tends to mean that they're not particularly specialized in anything. They're just a generalist, so they can do a bit of front end, they can pull a web form up, they can do a bit of back end, they can plug them together with a smart contract. They're just probably average. What you really need is people who are good at front end, people who are good at back end, and people who are good at plugging it all together. So it might simply be the nature of the architecture again. It's just that little bit different.
You need full stack developers though, yeah. So those are the ones who connect everything, and they really understand what each specialist is doing, yeah. And you touch based on AI, and that I agree with you, yeah. And what I've noticed recently, is, and we suffer that as well in the team, is a lot of bullshit in intersection of crypto and AI. Every other project now in Web3 has the AI word on it. When I dive into it, none of them have AI. None of them have an LLM behind it. It's more like intelligent automation. And then I'll put the AI. I don't like to mention names of projects or anything like that, but there's a project that has a big marketplace where they claim they have AI agents everywhere. When I start to look at, the first 3 pages, yeah, I mean, there is even a browser extension, and they put AI this and that's an AI agent. No, it's not. You just download a piece of software, install, and there's some connection to APIs, and this is the problem. The problem is then that the people that are really AI developers, yeah, they understand that's bullshit, okay, and they don't want to come to participate in an industry like blockchain and crypto that is trying to now implement decentralization of AI, which is super important to do it, because the people are bastardizing. Even they are bastardizing decentralization of AI. They do not understand decentralization of AI is putting some stuff on a blockchain. It involves swarm intelligence. Proper. DAI is quite an old concept in AI, centralized AI. This is not new. It didn't exist blockchain 30 years ago. Yeah, people already thought you can't have a centralized AI, So it's other technologies, but blockchain can help as well. Now, when these devs, AI devs, and AI engineers, really core AI engineers see all of this, they don't want to participate as well, and they get stuck on these big companies like Ken was saying, they are data scientists on Vodafone, they are data scientists on, I don't know, BBC, whatever, and they will not leave their jobs to come to Web3 and work more on Web3 projects, yeah, with intersection with blockchain, DeFi, many other things. So we all suffer, I'm suffering for this, we're trying to get 2 more core AI engineers, and it's really hard to entice them to come and join, So unfortunately, that's where crypto has gone, in Web3. Too many bullshitters and scammers and all that. We all suffered from that. Okay, I suffer from that. Many people have suffered, and then they just move to the next L1, and then to the next L1, and then you have the VCs that cause also some of those problems, because it's the human greediness part of it is actually causing all of these problems, because people just want to go for the next token launch and then make the money and then wait for the next one, and this is the problem, I think, Gary, Oh,
yeah, I think the other thing is that the industry is a bit of a victim of itself in some ways with the hype and that. I saw a thing earlier on. I've got to share this because I thought it was hilarious that there was a comment in the NFT space. NFT sales spike, as Pudgy Penguins sales surge 50%, and you go, oh wow, that's really interesting. Surging 50%. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on there, but when you actually looked at Pudgy Penguins, you look at the trades that are going on, and it's just that someone paid a bit over the odds for 1 token. So saying surging 50%. It is a complete misnomer. It just means that someone paid a little bit more, and the market's so tiny. So, like Dom and I were saying earlier on, how the entire crypto market is around about the 4 trillion mark, or heading that way at the moment, which is still, compared to traditional financial services, tiny type thing. So,
by the way, the Pudgy Penguin owner, you just bought Openseas.
Okay.
So you guys know, if you didn't see the news. He bought the.
I didn't. Okay.
Did you know that, Dom? It's ridiculous. It's becoming, I don't know. For me personally, I found so many of these things ridiculous, you know.
I mean, how much is OpenSea worth? A couple of ETH nowadays?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Magic Eden took over.
And this is the whole thing. A lot of it is hype, and particularly in the NFT space, which doesn't do the industry any good. But as JT was saying earlier, I think, or Ken, about how some developers get into that space because they can see it's very attractive. Which means if you're looking for developers in what I describe as serious projects, so things that are solving real problems like supply chain, traceability, but robust financial systems, or whatever, we kind of struggle on that. So Annie, hopefully that's helped give some thoughts on that. And I know it's just been joined by Alex as well. Alex, do you want to say hi? Oh. Alex is staying on mute for now. Never mind.
On mute. Okay. So no, thank you very much. That's very helpful. But I was just trying to kind of add on top is that I know Parity Technologies. Not sure whether you heard of them. So they actually did something to do with like a platform so that other developers can build on top of it. So you can create a blockchain quite easily on top. That sort of thing. And I suppose with my original question, what I was thinking about is it not an easy thing for developers who are already a serious coder for years, for them to just apply their knowledge, even though, Rust or some other languages are slightly different, is that not something that they can just apply knowledge? And, what I discover is, I am struggling myself because, people seem to now compartmentalize people into certain things rather than appreciate that their skill set can go wider.
I think Don makes the point. Go for it, Don.
The tech's not the problem. Crikey, even my old head, I've written a couple of coins in Go and whatever, right? You're so right. If there is the need, they can easily convert over to the language. As an old machine coder, and JT, I'm sure, back us up on this. Most of the coding nowadays, honestly, they don't even know they're coders. So, right?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, there is a decentralized component. Yeah, I suppose the other difference slightly is if you're writing a smart contracts and it has some value, there is a sort of liability concern, I suppose, in a way. Whereas if I was writing an old database, if I get something wrong, I can probably change the data in production and refix the code, right? After a little bit of an incident. Whereas you deploy on a smart contract, as you're saying, JT, you have bigger implications, but it's more the incentive. I think you hit all of them, right? What's the point? It's not sexy at the moment, particularly blockchain. Everyone, if that way inclined, I'm probably going to become a quant algo developer, right? And make a lot of money doing algo, quant stuff. It's more, what I don't see, I might be elsewhere, what I don't see in the Middle East are those, used to be those younger groups of devs getting together and having some good ideas and wanting to try and fix the world rather than, as you say, making a load of money on peanut. That's in fact, you don't need to code that, right? You just go on to meme for fun or whatever it is. So, it's that to me is how do we incentivize folks to be looking at the bigger problems that this stuff can fix rather than, JT rightly called out. It's about, I can either go and make a quick buck somewhere and then just go and sit on a yacht. How is Mr. Carlisle doing after leaving R3 Quarter?
Just to add on to that, though, it's, I think Gary was quite right when he said there's no hackathons. I think a lot of the young coders came through hackathons. And,
totally.
The number of hackathons have actually declined. I mean, you could literally go into any city in Europe, land, go on to Meetup or Eventbrite or whatever, and just type in blockchain hackathon, and you'd be able to go to one. And at the moment, even in London, struggle. I was in Portugal, which is quite a hub of crypto people, and I was there for a week, and there was absolutely no hackathons going on. So that is another, very big issue we have.
And that was my sort of point at the start. And there's loads of us old blokes in suits or wearing jackets with hankies and trainers and slacks. There's, you can go to an event like that every day of the week. But where are the hackathons? Where are the actual people who actually make this stuff change and happen? That's what I want.
There has to be a lot more done. You're right. I had a conversation recently with Alex Morris from Coin Network, and he's still doing them. He is going all over the world, just getting
cool.
And that's why Coin Network has now 94,000 nodes. They have, already so many dApps on it. It's creating really a massive ecosystem, and I think it's going to rip off all the benefits. The problem here is that I remember the Solana hackathons, yeah? Solana started to have massive hackathons in 2021, and they never stopped throughout the bear market. What that resulted is a lot of these programmers by joining together, came up with good ideas, and some of these ideas are $1 billion projects now, yeah? What they didn't have of a continuation to incentivize more new people to come in, I think the bear market suffered, a lot of chains and everyone suffered a lot from it, okay, during the bear market. And I think it destroyed some of these. So we don't see new blood coming in, some new developers, and it's a pity because wherever we went, I was actually talking to a conference organizer, believe it or not, at Bitcoin Mina, and I was saying, why they didn't set up here an hackathon? Because I was talking to people about, I need an L2 on Bitcoin that actually works. I spoke with almost all of the guys involving in projects that were there, and all of them agree with me. There's nothing on the Bitcoin network that is working properly, okay? So all of the projects are, February next year, March, and they keep saying a few months later, nothing works. Hackathons could solve those problems. You bring the brightest together and you say, hey, we need to create smart contracts for, I don't know, minting ordinals on demand or creating tokens on Bitcoin layer 2. Pretty sure that over time, over a period of 6 months, several hackathons, we would have that, because one of the things that coders like is solve problems. And when they are together, they love to get on an hackathon, I just don't understand the industry anymore. I really, I'm happy like people like Alex Morris still doing them,
Well, we've got a different Alex on at the moment, so let's bring him in now. Hopefully he's not chasing after the kids anymore. How's it going, Alex?
It's just interesting what you're saying, because I actually came into Web3 with a hackathon and founded my company off the back of a hackathon. We did the Chainlink 4 hackathon in 2021. And then went on to raise $7 million later that year, doing KYC stuff. But I agree. I don't think the hackathons have been like, I don't think there's been a huge shift. I mean, I live in Lisbon at the moment, and I don't think there's ever been that many hackathons. I think ETH Lisbon has dropped off. I think no one really goes to it anymore, or it's whatever the organizers don't organize it. But I think from a founder perspective, I used to look at hackathons as being an expensive way to blow a load of money to make yourself feel good. And I think a lot of people in the ecosystem have started to realize that. I think one of the biggest casualties of spending big on dev ecosystem is probably, what's the name of them? They had a blue token and they blew up fantastically. They were doing something to do with sharding. It began with an H. It's not Halo, not Holonym.
Helix or something?
No, not Helix. I can't remember the name.
And not Radix, because they do
Harmony.
Okay.
Harmony. I can remember December 22. The Harmony team was spraying champagne over each other like it was like they just won the F1. They were spending money everywhere. I remember talking to the Harmony BD guy, and he was like, he basically said, mate, if you want to make a quick 10 grand, he was like, we'll just give you a grant. He's like, I don't even really care what you do, just build on Harmony and we'll give you 10 grand. And I actually just didn't do it because I had better stuff to do at the time. But I think a lot of these people, we even considered sponsoring hackathon at one point, and I think a lot of people have pulled out from that though. Aave doesn't really do that many things. They do like a grand here and there tops, and they've got so much money. I think the Rave things have packed down, like the Rave sponsored parties are less common now. So I think generally everyone's realized that they don't get that much bang for their buck, and the more bang for your buck you get, it's just launch a shitload of meme tokens. Everyone's a holder in your platform. That's it. I think the marketing, guerrilla marketing, is I think less effective in 2024, and I think that's the issue.
Just coming back to Dom's point as well, he was asking me about how it's going in the UK at the moment, the kind of sentiment. And I've seen a kind of a settling down. The UK FCA, I think, has got other issues right now. It's getting a little bit slammed about general regulation. And I feel quite sorry for the new CEO who was appointed, I think about 6 months ago, a guy from New Zealand, if I remember correctly. The FCA is coming in for criticism about its regulatory oversight of financial services. And so I don't think it's got the headroom to start building its capability to do crypto-aligned regulation. It's so busy dealing with the traditional stuff type of thing. So the sense I'm getting is that crypto is still struggling in the UK because we haven't got regulatory support. And I still know people who are getting like bank accounts frozen, this kind of thing, simply because they're dealing in crypto in some way. And the banks are saying, oh, well, our AML team, our compliance team are shutting you down. So it doesn't yet feel as though the government has got the forward thinking around crypto, shall we say. So they're still being very defensive. And, crypto is still, it's all about money laundering, criminal activity, blah, 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 which I thought we'd moved on from. But
do you mind if I chime in on that? Because
go for it.
It's really interesting you say that, because I was at City and Financial Global event, which had the Treasury, someone from the Treasury speaking, which is really interesting because the Treasury is really pro Bitcoin, but it's really interesting because the Treasury is also really pro FTSE. But then when you look at actually what they do to facilitate any of this, it's absolutely naff all. So what they do is they say, yeah, you should do Bitcoin stuff. They don't even know what blockchain is, but they say, because they call it DLT, which is like, if you're scared of saying DeFi, you say DLT. And she said, yeah, we're supporting DLT initiatives. And the real murmur in the room was like, okay, what were they actually doing? And the answer was naff all. And it's the same with the FTSE. It's like everyone's listing outside in the US because they've cranked the tax rates up, the added stamp duty increases, and then wonder what happens. So it's like, there's clearly from government, they want to facilitate business, but then actions wise, they're not supporting it at all. The startups, the only thing we've got in the UK that's relevant for startups is SEIS, EIS, which are both kind of shit. And then compare that to Silicon Valley. It was only recently I realized why Silicon Valley is like so nuts for VC funding. It's because there's some weird kickback where if you're a VC or you invest in an early stage company, you pay like literally zero tax on unlimited amount of investment. And so it all comes down to that. And everyone wonders why Lisbon is like a tech hub. It's because you can live in Lisbon and pay 0% tax. There's literally there's the only reason. It's like all the tech founders here are on the NHR program, which basically means you're on a super low tax band and everyone else is paying 70%. And so it's like, oh, it's not suddenly everyone moved to San Francisco because it's like in America, or has everyone moved to Lisbon because it's sunny? So everyone's moving because there's actual real monetary incentive programs. Everyone's basically yield farming in IRL, as it were.
The way I see it, Gary and Dom, is this is a top-down thing, okay? People look always at leadership from people and what people say on the top. And the guy that is at the Bank of England at the top was the previous head of the FCA, and he said publicly that crypto is a scam, okay? Mm-hmm. Once you have that, and he left there his number 2 as the head of the FCA, I mean, they're going to continue what they've been saying for years, okay? And I understand that's the world they live. That's the way, I mean, they deal with all the traditional finance people. I understand that, okay? So the other side is legislators, okay? Governments, people in parliament. If you do not legislate, nothing is ever going to happen. And we can see it how it was in Europe. We can see it how it is in the US. They have to legislate. From the moment the European Union passed MiCA, it's good for people launch utility token. It's hard for people issuing anything backed stable coins, etc., etc. But so there's a love and hate for many people there. But there is a legislation. You know what you need to do, yeah? And nobody can stop you if you follow the legislation. There's no freaking legislation in the UK. There's no freaking legislation in the US. And both countries are suffering from it, okay? In the US, found a way through ETFs, to get Bitcoin and then Ethereum. The rest, people are still struggling there as well. And people left the UK, not just because just the tax benefits of some kind. Yeah, that impacts a lot. It's because there's no incentives for anyone. There's no VC money. There's startups are disappearing from the UK. There's no support for startups. There's nothing anymore. We had this conversation in Abu Dhabi, actually, quite a few of us. And this is why people are leaving the UK, yeah? Being for Lisbon or for Dubai, even to Abu Dhabi now, Dom, isn't it? There's a lot of people moving to Abu Dhabi, yeah? So,
and I can't get a bloody seat at my local bar because of all these people moving to Abu Dhabi, I know. But that's it. It's certainly. I mean, the feedback I got as well, JT, was again, the simple stuff, right? It's if I've got to pay an extra amount of not income tax, but what's the other one? National insurance, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to place that person in Lisbon, and not necessarily a tech person or a crypto person. It could be some of my office management staff. It could be anything. I'm going to pick them up and going to put them in a jurisdiction that's just physically cheaper. And yeah, I mean, I know they've now laid out this 2026 roadmap, but there's a sort of weirdly an old crypto head who wants to come back to the UK for a bit and use some of all the knowledge I've got from out here to try and help stuff move on. I've chatted with a load of the GDF folks who are over, like Elise, because it's like you want to inject some of that momentum, but if the government and you say top down piece, it's just going to drive more and more, the critical folks, those younger folks, the people who are graduating, the people who are moving out, sort of, mid-20s, who are worried about the possible exit tax, then it's not worth me coming back, right? Because there's me no one around.
And it's funny as well, that extends just beyond the crypto domain. I did some work for a emerging tech company out of Asia, who had a UK presence and European presence, and we ended up building our team in Portugal. For very much the reason you say, that the tax incentives, the market rates, and that was just for general financial services and project management and that. So Annie, I think we've given a pretty long answer of some really interesting stuff there. It's good to get Alex's and JT's and Dom's perspectives on that as well. And Ken for the UK. We only got a couple of minutes left, unfortunately. It's often the case with these things that we start getting into really interesting things just at the point at which I go, well, see you again next week, folks.
Well, thank you very much, and appreciate that Alex joined in and gave more information on. Well, Lisbon is nice. I wish I could live there. So yeah.
I'm sure there's always opportunities of things going on, that kind of thing. Sorry, OK just came in at last minute. OK, do you want to say hi?
Hi guys, how you doing? Oscar here from DLT Hub London. We were the lunatics who blew all our gains from the last bull run trying to create a degen space in Canary Wharf. We were going to try and create something, but we ended up having such a party for 2 years. It turned into a right degen fest. And we've just broke back and we're building a EdTech thing coming out now, but I won't bore you with that. But and we've decided to set up in the UK, so let's see how that works out.
That's going to be really interesting, because Dom was asking before about what the position is at the moment in the UK, and I don't think I was painting a particularly bright environment. Or it'd be really good to have you come back next week, actually, or on a future session, and chat a little bit more about your journey and your experiences and that. I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, I'd love that, Gary. We've got a documentary going on right now. I'm going to put something out on the Commonwealth group to see if anyone's free to join our documentary as well. But okay. I'll bore you with that later.
Cool. Love to.
Yeah, I'd love that. Thank you.
Excellent. Look, well, folks, this is where I do say now we're out of time because we're on the hour. But thanks so much for everyone joining. It's always nice to see Dom and JT. And Alex and Ken and everyone else and that. And Annie, thanks for asking the questions. And Gabrielle's just staying quiet in the background, listening and digesting all of this about how attractive Portugal is at the moment, which is geographically.
Don't
not
pay
too
20%.
far
You can
from-
come over here and pay 0%. It's even better.
You pay 0 here as well, actually.
Oh, I thought it was 20% under the.
No. It's an unknown loophole that you pay 0. It's also 0% on NFTs. So you can actually, if you're smart, you can set up an NFT as a wallet and then just pay literally 0 without literally anyone batting an eyelid on any trade. So you can get away with zero on cat gains.
I'll DM you on the group to get that on Portugal because I thought it was 20.
And
but
more
Me too.
if you don't touch your crypto for 12 months, you pay 0% tax on your crypto as well.
But also NFTs is 0. So basically use an NFT as a backdoor wallet and then you're sorted.
Got ya.
Cool. Excellent.
I'll catch you on the group.
Yeah, and a nice closing thing. That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Right, thanks everyone.
All right, sorry.
Really good fun.
Yeah,
And hopefully see you all again next week.
See you later.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.